San Francisco. My flights today have been canceled due to a maintenance issue on my airplane. So what should I do? Oh, come on. The name of this channel is The Poker Pilot. I think we know what I'm gonna do.
It's obvious, isn't it?
Just south of the city is a California card room that I know about but have never visited. This is as good a time as any. When I walk in, my first impression is that I just walked into an old Chinese buffet that hasn't been renovated since the 90s, but that's also a part of the charm. So I dip my toe in the water and buy into a new 1-2-2 game with a $400 max. It doesn't take too long to get involved when I look down at Jack 10 suited. In this game there's a $1 blind on the button, and it also has a bring-in of $5, so you can't just limp in for 2. And if you're the big blind, checking your option isn't a thing. Because of these things, the game plays a bit bigger, and the standard opening size reflects that. In this hand, there's one bring-in for $5 from under the gun, and when it gets to me in the cutoff, I raise things up to 20. Big blind and the under the gun limper come along. The flop is interesting. Bringing in a jack is the highest card, but all 3 cards are clubs. I've got top pair and medium kicker, but 10-9 is already a straight, there are flushes available, and I don't have any clubs, so I'll have to proceed with caution. Thankfully both opponents check to me and I go with a half pot bet here. The big blind has seen enough, but under the gun stays in. The turn is just not good. It's the queen of clubs. I now lose to any club, and now there's an overcard to my pair. When under the gun checks again, I see no value in betting anymore, so I check back. River's the deuce of hearts, a complete brick. Under the gun checks again, and I'm just done with this one. I take my showdown value and check back again. At showdown, I see my opponent doesn't have a club either, but he didn't need them. He's got Jack 8 for flop 2 pair, and our stack takes a little hit to start the session off. In hindsight, the run out actually saved us some chips here, so it's fine, and we're off to the next hand of note. Which is 4 deuce of spades. Yeah, look, this is wide, but I'm in late position and first in, so screw it. I open a 15 and it folds to the big blind, who defends. Things get turned from 1 to 100 when on a flop of 6-6-4, this happens.
Alright, do you want to make some money? Come on.
The big blind basically throws his hands in the air, proclaims screw it, and jams the rest of his chips into the pot, which is a little over $100. Alright. This does throw me off a bit, but let's face it, this is almost always a bluff. If he had a 6, he wouldn't just open jam and scare me off. Nah, this just smells like 2 random overcards, and I've got a pair, which is ahead of those, so screw it indeed. I call.
Another beer?
Yeah.
You win.
I show my measly pair of 4s, and I'm good against ace-king. What a game, just GTO wizardry of a hand right here. For this hand, you're just gonna have to take my word for what happens. One thing I've learned starting a poker vlog is that you'll often not start recording a hand because you just don't think anything of note is going to happen. But then you play 9-6 suited and see a flop of 9-6-6. Man, just hit the record button. Anyway, full houses are hard to make, and in honor of flopping one here in the Bay Area, I feel obligated to cut to a clip of a certain familiar theme song. I wish there was more to say about the hand. I got 1 street of value and then my opponent folded on the turn, but what in the world? This game, I swear. You can have 21 outs going to a turn in river and completely whiff 15 times in a row, and then out of nowhere you'll just flop a full house. Just, cards are weird. Here I've got ace jack of diamonds in the cutoff. There's a limp, like there usually is, and I raise to 20. Button cold calls, which brings the limper along, because nearly everyone's a sucker for a good price. On a flop of 6-5-3, which in theory is way better for my opponents, both the limper and I check it over to the button, who bets 25. Limper gets out of the way, and I'm not going to shy away yet, so I float and match his bet. A queen falls, which should hit my range harder than his, so I take a stab at this pot as a bluff by betting 45. He doesn't buy my story, so he calls. A jack falls on the river, so now I've got second pair top kicker, which isn't too bad. I think I should go for thin value here and get a crying call against a random 6-5 or a 3. I don't think he's got a queen, so let's bet. Bet. I said bet. Bet. Oh, you idiot. I wuss out for whatever reason and just check, and he just snap checks back. I've got the winner versus a pair of 5s. Not sure if you can see it there, but that's a 5. I dragged this one in, but I might have left some value on the table here. Remember that thing I did earlier in the video where I forgot to record and I flopped a full house? If you don't, you might want to get your memory checked, because by my account that was approximately 10 seconds ago. Well, in this one it's Limp City, and I complete from the small blind with King 4 suited for the lols, and just look at this flop. King 4-4. What the... Just, what in the world is going on? I nearly forgot to record it too. Anyway, I go ahead and check to start off, hoping someone will put some money in, but of course it just checks around. When the ace of diamonds comes, I want value from flushes or pairs or anything really, and I want it now. I cast my line out there in the form of 20 bucks, and thankfully I do get one person to come along. River's a deuce and a complete brick. I bet 50 bucks hoping he's overvaluing an ace or does indeed have a small flush, but unfortunately he has something that can't continue anymore and lets his hand go. You know, Poker Pilot, flopping full houses is fun, but next time it happens, you really should try to get more value from them.
Okay.
You got it, dude.
Sounds good, Bob. I'll try to do that right now. Here I play Jack 5 suited from my button in case the flop comes Jack 5-5, but spoiler, it doesn't. I fold on the flop. Okay, I just have to include this one, and you're about to see why. No, I didn't flop a boat with it, but long story short, I c-bet these pocket 9s on a board of all undercards and get raised. Look over there. He picks up 2 black chips and some reds, and tosses them in the middle. And I'm like, whoa, hey, whoa, buddy. $220? Why so much? This scares me off of the hand and I fold. But then I get outed as a visitor to the area when people show me that those aren't $100 chips, but $20 chips. He only made a run-of-the-mill 3x raise and I just noped out of there being so used to black chips being worth $100. Moral of the story, know the denominations of the chips you're playing with. Probably would help with your poker game. Now I pick up 9's little brother, pocket 8s in the big blind. There's a limp from early position, then a raise from later position, can't remember exactly which one, to 25. And I figure it's time to go mining. The limper says, yeah, sure, let's do it, and puts in the extra 20 bucks. Flop comes ace 6-4, so I miss hitting a set, and then I make what might be the weirdest play of the session. I start carving out chips for a donk lead for whatever reason. Watching this play back, I'm like, what are you doing, man? I haven't even wagered yet, and the limper is like, yeah, screw that. I throw $35 into the middle, to which the late position player is like, dude, it's an ace-high board and I raise pre-flop. Of course I call. Now the turn comes, and my weird flop play immediately gets rewarded, and undeservedly so, when the 8 of hearts peels off.
Have mercy.
Alright then, that works. A backdoor heart draw is now in play, and I figure there's more value to be had from this hand by giving up the betting lead and feigning weakness, so I tap the table. Thankfully he doesn't disappoint, and he bets 50. I do wish his sizing was bigger, but I take this to mean he's not too incredibly strong. His range at this point probably includes weaker aces or pocket pairs like 9s through kings, which absolutely hate the ace and are just trying to take it down now. But no chance of that, man. This dummy just turned a set and is going nowhere. A blank river of the 3 of spades falls, and now we're at a crossroads. He's got $170 left behind, so do I check it to him? Do I go for all of it, or just a little bit of it? I ponder for a few seconds, and then figure if he's got an underpair to the ace, he's probably not calling a bet of any size at this point. If he's got an ace, he'll have a hard time letting it go, as most low stakes players do. I can also make my hand look more like a missed backdoor heart draw by going big. So for these reasons, I jam for all of it. He doesn't snap fold, which is good, but he does 15-second fold. I take down a nice pot, but looking back at this one, I just feel like I took a really strange line. The very next hand, I get dealt literally the exact same cards, down to the suits. What in the world is happening here? There's an open from under the gun to 20 here, and it folds to me. I'm in the small blind, so I just come in with the call. We go heads up to Queen Jack 10, all spades. Super wet and dynamic board here, and I again go with an unconventional strategy here and donk out for a $20 bet. My goal with this bet was to narrow his range of hands if he were to continue. If he calls on a 3 to a straight flush board, then I think I can reasonably assign a range of Queen X with a spade, Ace X with the Ace of Spades, King X with a spade, or Queen Jack or Jack 10. In addition, I'd plan to apply pressure on any blank turn to convince him that I've got him beat with a flopped flush or straight. He does call, and we go to a turn of the 5 of diamonds. That's about as blank as it gets given the action, so I put my plan into place. I bet 50 bucks this time, and he snap folds. Alright guys, I could not make this up if I tried. It's a limped pot, and in the cutoff I look down at King 4 of diamonds. Remember what happened earlier when I flopped a boat with King 4? Well, I overlimp, again for the lols, because if the flop comes King 4-4 again, I will immediately start recording the hand. And we go 5 ways to— what the f?
Everywhere you look, when you're lost out there and you're all alone, life is waiting to carry you home.
The flop comes King 4-4. Look at it! For the 3rd time in a single session, I flop a full house, and this is the 2nd time with King 4. This is just straight up wacky, I swear. It checks to me, and similar to the first time I flopped a boat with King 4, I bet 20 bucks hoping a king, the case 4, or a club draw will continue. Thankfully, one player does come along. Turn comes the 6 of clubs, which is a great card. If he was hoping to hit a flush, he just did. Even better, he takes the betting lead and throws $25 into the middle. Don't want to scare him off yet. I plan to get his remaining 115 into the middle on the river, so I make the smooth call. River, unfortunately, double pairs the board, bringing another 6. This might dissuade a flush from stacking off, but thankfully he does bet again, this time for 40. There's nothing to do here but jam for his last 75 bucks and hope he makes a crying call. I Hollywood for a few Mississippis, make the jam, and after another few seconds, he decides he doesn't believe me and pays me off with a flush. This is just ridiculous. Turns out poker is pretty easy when you flop full houses and all you have to do is try to get paid. I'm going to try to implement this strategy into my game more. What a freaking tear! Let's keep it going, this time with a premium, the beautiful Ace-King suited. It's another limp fest to me in the small blind, and that's just not going to fly this time. I make it 25 to go, and once the under the gun limper calls, you know the story. It goes call, call, and call again. 5 ways with 125 already in to deuce 4-6. Not great. And I don't feel like bloating this pot up out of position in a family pot without a made hand, so I tap the table. Under the gun bets 20, middle position calls, low jack calls, and it gets to me. It's way too good of a price for a float, so I do so. Now a king falls on the turn. Nice. Thing is though, in the moment I elect to tap the table again. Should have just bet out here for value and protection, but I was probably thinking the pot is already bloated and still multi-way, and while I have the strongest pair with top kicker, it could still be vulnerable to random hands in people's pre-flop limp call ranges. It actually checks around, so now I'm feeling pretty confident that I have the best hand going to the river, which peels off of 5. I do know I have to bet here, but now with a one-liner out there, I get dissuaded from going too big. I bet $80, a size which I feel will get called by worse and raised by better, and it folds to the low jack, who takes a good 25 seconds before making the call. I display my hand, feeling confident it's the winner, but it's actually not. Low jack has pocket 5s for a rivered set.
How rude!
That threw me off. It also means I probably could have taken this pot down by just betting the turn. I'll never know for sure, but it was a bummer losing this semi-large pot to an unfortunate river. Also, let me know in the comments, but was that a nit roll? Felt a little bit like one, but with the one-liner out there, maybe not. After this hand, there weren't too many more of significance for the rest of the session, at least to the point of dedicating time to talk about them in detail with overlay graphics, but there were a couple of interesting moments. With ace-10 suited, I turned the nut flush, but on a paired flop and against the tightest player at the table, I elected to just call his river aggression rather than raise, and turns out, he flopped a full house. I could both dish it and take it this session, I guess. I play 9-6 suited, flop trips, raise it up, and take it down, and perhaps strangest of all, I'd win not one, but 2 pots with this overrated monstrosity of a hand. I guess it's just my day. While not the biggest session win of my life, it was one of my most memorable due to the wacky way the cards were falling. You don't flop 3 full houses in a single session all the time. In for 400, out for 1,024. Sounds like a $624 win. Feel free to check my math on a calculator or something. Alright, so here's the deal. My plane is still down for maintenance, so I'm here again today. Sometimes this happens. So I guess I'll go play again. I want to try a different room though.
Let's fucking go.
Well, I'm not going to let another day off pass me by without getting some hours in. This time I make the drive a little farther down the road to San Jose. My choices are between Matrix and Bay 101, and I've been to neither as of yet. I've heard Bay is practically brand new and nicer, so the little voice in my head says to go there. Little spoiler, but that little voice was absolutely right today. This room is unique in that the smallest no-limit game you'll find is 235 with an $800 cap. I have a feeling that chips are going to be flying across the table if that's as low of stakes as you can get here. I sit down with $800 in betting discs, and it doesn't take me long at all to start getting involved. Let me pause the video here on my King Jack offsuit hole cards and talk about something that comes with the poker vlogging territory. In order to recall hands and make a video about them later, you have to take notes about them. Right now I carry a physical notebook and pen with me to do so. The thing is, after a hand, you need a little bit of time to write those notes down. So for video making purposes, it's actually ideal to get involved in a hand and then fold the next couple of them pre-flop. You know, this kind of gives you a moment to remember the action, the board, etc. Well, sometimes you don't really get the chance to take notes, because the poker gods decide today is your day to get dealt a bunch of playable hands in short order. The time window in which the following hands occurred was mere minutes, and I don't have notes for them because I just didn't get a moment to write them down. But look, it's okay, because all that matters is that I just go on an absolute tear. Anyway, looks like with this King Jack offhand, I take it down on the turn. Honestly, I don't remember the board at all. Then with pocket queens, it looks like I opened it up to 20 and then get 3-bet to 60. I tend to mix it up between calling and 4-betting with queens, and on this day, I didn't feel like getting 5-bet shoved on, so I just made the call. I don't remember what the flop was, but I know it was all undercards. Looks like I checked to the razor, he bet 55, and I called. Now, what I do remember quite vividly is that the turn was a queen. Cha-ching! I check it over to him again with devious intent, praying he has kings or aces now, and he takes the bait, betting 75. Time to spring the trap, with the intent to get all the money in on the river. I check raise to 225, which puts this guy in a bind. Unfortunately, he does end up folding, but what a nice gift that turn card was. On the very next deal, I picked up ace-9 of spades, play it, and if I recall correctly, ended up making the nut flush. Another pot incoming. And again, on the very next hand, I pick up ace-king. I 3-bet it, but this time everyone can see the smoke emanating from my body, so they all get out of the way pre-flop. Like that matters, because the very next hand, I pick up this beauty. What is going on? The dealer's just rapid firing monsters at me, and I'm all here for it. The straddle is on here and looks like the button raised to 30. Won't be enough, sir. 110 to go, which he calls. I can't remember the flop, but I bet the same amount, and he responds by jamming. I snap call and win all his money. By this point, you need a heat protective suit to get anywhere near me because I'm just on fire.
If you rent more than 4 times a year, it just makes sense to buy.
Cinematic stack shot. Aren't those chips pretty? Well, put the camera down because it's time for the next hand, which is pocket aces again. I get all the money in versus a shorter stack and again, take all of his chips.
That's how you're getting a tiny bit of separation. Oh my goodness. Come on!
Now for a first of this vlog. This is unfortunately when the manager on duty comes over to me and tells me that they sadly don't allow filming without prior approval. Super friendly guy, no problem at all. And he even checks out my channel immediately after. If you're watching this video, by the way, shout out to you, man. But there are more hands I want to share. I thought about doing it over stock footage of San Francisco or San Jose, but nah. Let's try to do it Andrew Nemi style. I'm not even in California right now, but I don't think it matters. So enjoy the following hand histories as I enjoy a beer. Now you're gonna have to excuse me because I don't have this memorized, so I'm gonna have to occasionally look down at my script, but I'm sure you can forgive me, right? Anyway, I didn't play every hand that great during this session, alright? I know it's been a sun run so far, but you gotta hear about this one. I played it really, really badly. Alright, I'm in the big blind with Jack 4, the Robbie. Someone races to 20, which gets 4 other callers, and I say, screw it. I call as sort of a heat check. And with $100 in, we go to a flop, which is Jack, Jack, Deuce. I mean, come on. I check and flow to the aggressor, and later position bets 35 bucks, which gets 1 caller. Now, gets to me and I make my first mistake besides playing Jack 4 in the first place. I just flat, and with flush draw on board, I really should have raised, but I digress. The 2 other players fold, and we go to a turn. Turns an offsuit 6, and I'm first to act. Here comes another mistake. I just check. Why? I got trips. Someone's drawing to a flush. Charge them. It ends up checking around. When the river comes, it seals my fate. It's the 10 of clubs. Yeah. Now what do? I should probably just check, right? Because what is anyone arriving here with other than a flush? Nothing. I go for thin value. I bet 70. First guy calls. Second guy calls. And I know I'm no good. They both had flushes. So, there you go. I played the Robbie. I value owned myself. Just a poorly played hand. Let's get back to the fun stuff, the winning. Alright, this hand's a little bizarre, but I'm on the button, and of course, guess what I've got? It's the theme of the episode, alright? I'm crushing it. I just pick up premiums left and right. I've got aces again. Okay, I open it up to 20, and I end up going against the blinds. They both call. Flop is 10-5 deuce, and I figure no one's going to bet, but they do. The small blind leads out. He bets 45. All right. Big blind folds. I obviously call, and we go to a turn, which is a queen. This time he checks to me, and now I bet 85. Then he check raises me to 225. And here's the weird part about this hand. He only has $100 left. So here's what I do. I basically turn to him and I say, you only have $100 left? Okay, I might as well just get all the money in, man. All right, I'm all in. And then he folds. He pot committed himself, left himself $100, and then he folded. Like I said, bizarre hand, but cheers to that. Another pot with pocket aces. All right, this next hand we continue with our pocket pair of madness, and I pick up pocket 10s in the small blind. Under the gun opens up to 15. It gets to me, and I 3-bet it up to 60 bucks, and he calls. Following is a triple barrel bluff, because the flop comes queen high. I bet 40, he calls. Then I bet 80, and he calls again. And then on the Jack River, I bet 185, and he finally folds. You know, I read recently that the best bluffs are the ones that get called until the river, and then they fold. So yeah, picked up a nice pot as a bluff on the river. All right, finally, last hand of note from this session. I pick up pocket 5s in the big blind. Admittedly, I do fall into the winner's fallacy where you don't want to dust off everything right at the end of your session, so it's a limp fest. It gets to me. I like to just check my option. Look, yeah, normally I would squeeze, but here I kind of want to preserve this giant win. And, you know, I figured I can get paid later if I hit a set, which, guess what happens? I do. It is all spades though, so I gotta proceed with caution. Small blind checks to me, I go in and bet 15 bucks right away, which gets one caller, and then it folds back to the small blind, who check raises to 75. Look, this just screams that he fought the flush. But guess what? I can still boat up, so I can't fold yet. I call. The other guy gets out of the way. And then we go to a turn, which, guess what? Pairs the board. It's a deuce. I think we have a theme from this episode. Cue the clip. Best case scenario is that he did flop a flush. So he's got 470 left and he chooses to bet 120 of them. I can either jam right now or smooth call, and in the moment I elected to go for the smooth call. I feel like jamming right now would just announce, hey, I have a full house, and it might scare him off. So I plan to rip for his remaining 350 on the river no matter what happens. River comes and I don't even remember it. It's completely irrelevant to the hand. Now he checks to me. I was hoping he would just rip it, but I'm gonna have to do all the work. I rip it for 350 bucks effective. He thinks for a few seconds, does a little mini tank, finally makes the side call. And he did flop a flush. Max value with a turn vote. This session has just been unbelievable. All right, I'm done talking about hands into the camera for now, and I gotta say, shout out to you poker vloggers who do that on the regular, because that's way harder than it looks. I took way more takes than I care to admit. All right, back to your regularly scheduled voiceovers. Look at this ridiculous stack. I managed to build the $2,100 pyramid and nearly finished the $2,800 version. And there's those $100 chips up top too. Sometimes I need to remember why I'm interested in this silly game. This session sure reminded me. I'm in for 800, out for 3,440 for a profit of $2,640. When it finally comes time to depart the Bay Area, I'm gonna thank my jet for breaking down for a couple days so I could go out and become $3,200 richer. Speaking of richer, I'd like this channel to become richer with subscribers too. If you like what you saw in this episode of The Poker Pilot, show it some love by liking it and then hitting that subscribe button. I'll see you in the next one, from the next place, wherever that might be.